Let's do it.
Okay, we're starting. And I can see the number of attendees come in. So we've got one.
We've got one. Yay.
No, they come in slowly. I'll start when we get to a reasonable number. Welcome to Kevin, Dominic, Debbie, Bullant, Nicola. I'll just leave it a few minutes before we start the webinar. So who's going first with the presentation? Was it Jessica or Mark? Mark. No worries. You're ready with your finger to put up the presentation on the share?
I am ready and willing.
It is recording. We'll just leave it another minute or so. We do have some more coming in. And of course, for those watching the seminar, the webinar is being recorded and will be available afterwards on the website, the IIM website. It's still coming in. I have a lovely background of Cornwall, by the way. I think it's St. Ives. I could be wrong. Okay, we'll make a start. So thank you everybody for joining this fourth seminar in the Summer60Series, which is a 60-minute webinars given by the Institute of Interim Management. Largely these come out of the survey which I co-author with Ad van der Rest for the Institute, and the seminar, the write-up, the report of the survey for 2020 is available again on the IIM website. But we're going to cover a number of things today. We have two presenters, Jessica Mullinger and also Mark Payne. I'll let them introduce themselves. We're going to cover market trends, IR35 impacts, and top tips for interims. So I'll hand across to ladies first. Jessica, to introduce yourself, followed by Mark.
And actual fact, I'm going first.
Yes, I think
All right, okay.
we're going to do the other way around, if that's okay. Yeah.
That was just introductions.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we can do that. We can do that, definitely. Hi, I'm Jessica Mullinger. I'm head of interim management at Solace. Been at Solace for 13 years now, in recruitment for 18 years, which makes me feel ancient saying that out loud. That's a brief introduction. So I think Mark was going to start off with his intro and slides, so I'll hand over to him.
Yeah. I'm Mark Payne from Practicus. I've been at Practicus for 13 years. I'm one of the principal consultants and responsible for the NHS desk in relation to primarily the east of England and the north of England. I have previously done the south and also done the London area. So I'm going to start off with sharing a few slides with you, go through them, and then I'll pass back to Jess. Yeah, hopefully this goes very well. Okay. So just wanted to talk to you about Practicus and us. So a quick introduction to myself, principal consultant at Practicus, been here 13 years. Really proud to say that I've been part of the IIM survey and been in the top 20 for about the last 6 years, I think it is. And particularly proud and thank you to everybody out there who's voted for us. We came #1 this year, which is a great achievement, but we can only do it with you guys helping us. So it's a team thing, and thank you very much for that. What I want to do is just tell you a little bit about Practicus itself. So just going to move on to our core values. So it's all about our core values, how we work with you guys and how you work with us. So empathy is obviously really important that we understand what you need, what you want, and also what our clients want, so we can match you to the client and the client to you and work closely with you. I will always try, and the whole team, and you'll see them in a minute, will always try and go that extra mile for you. We will work hard on your behalf, we'll work hard on behalf of the client. This is a mutual gain for everybody. We work together and we all win. But I will always try and support you to the next level if I can. I'll always try and be honest, and I think the whole team at Practicus will always try be honest and have lots of integrity. We'll be straightforward with you and genuine. We'll also tell you how it is sometimes, because sometimes we have to share roles with you, and we will try and take you forwards for the best role suitable for you. And we have a real passion. We work together as a team. So you're working with me, but you'll be working with the whole team supporting you. We love what we do. We love working for Practicus, and we love working with our clients and you guys. So hopefully that comes across when you deal with us. This is just to give you an idea of where we sit within the market and how we present ourselves to the market. Proud to say that we are probably the largest specialist provider of interims to the NHS currently, based on these numbers and based on our delivery over the last 10 years. So you can see from the numbers on the right hand side that we do a lot of work with the acutes and the commissioners. We also work across the other sectors, so we work with the ambulance services, NHS England, specialist mental health providers. So from that, we get a good perspective of what's going on, what's in demand out in the market, and how we can help you find your next opportunity. I then wanted to pass back to Jess so that she can talk about Solace and her perspective on the market. So I'll pass over to Jess now.
Thanks, Mark.
That's okay. There you go.
Thank you. Share my screen for you. There. Okay, so I think we've done the introductions. So that's that done. Again, as Mark said, really just a quick thank you to the IIM, both for the work that they do throughout the year and in particular for the survey. That really does provide us as recruiters with really invaluable data that we do use kind of all year through. And obviously the provider listing as well. It's really brilliant for organisations, particularly like Solace. We're a really small organisation. We don't have huge teams of sales consultants. So this really does give us an opportunity to showcase what we can do and help us to reach a wider audience. So we're really, really grateful for that kind of every year as that rolls around. And obviously, thank you very much to those of you who voted for us as well. We were ranked 6th place this year. We were actually the highest ranking provider within our market, which is specifically local government. So we were really, really proud of that. And thank you very much to all those who voted. So Solace, I don't know how many of our registered interims are attending today, but I'll just pretend that you kind of know nothing really. Solace itself is a membership organisation actually, and it's a charity. So our charitable mission is to improve leadership standards across local government. So every time one of our clients working with over 50 county, district and unitary authorities. Our consultants don't work on commission, which is quite unusual for the recruitment industry. What we find is that ensures that we're able to really work within our company values, and it really does kind of drive the kinds of behaviours that we look for as an organisation and particularly as a charity. the...
Yeah.
Shall I do that and then we'll swap over? Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Thanks. In terms of COVID-19, obviously this is the huge impact for everybody this year, and there's no point in kind of going any further before we cover that topic really. It's been a real tale of two halves for us actually as a recruiter. We did see a real drop in activity levels over the last kind of 3-4 months. We dropped down to about 50% at one point, and we're gradually kind of improving and increasing that now. We're probably 5-8% now. Our interims who were out in the field working for us in local authorities experienced a really kind of intense and they went from working perhaps 2-3 days a week to working 6-7 days a week throughout that period of time. And they've been moved on to all manner of different projects. So we've seen quite a number of our interim managers move into gold or silver command positions within local authorities. They've been responsible for doing the shielding, the hubs, business grants, furlough, all the staff wellbeing, the comms, moving through the summer, moving on to more around the kind of social distancing, the track and trace, starting to look at economic recovery, but really that's kind of been more the kind of July, September time that authorities are starting now to really look forward and look at how they're going to stabilise their authorities, stabilise the finances, start to get some of those recovery plans in place. And just a couple of examples of the kind of money that is being lost from the system in some local authorities. We've got one associate working in a London borough who are losing about £1 million a month on parking alone. Luton Airport, we've seen in the press, losing huge amounts of income that they rely heavily on from the airport. So there's some really critical issues in terms of finances with local authorities at the moment, and we've got a number of our interim managers in there kind of steering organisations through some of that. Do you want me to go on and do the markets, or should we swap over, Mark?
Yeah. No, do you want to do the market trends, and then I'll pick up market trends and CV19, okay. IR35 even.
No worries. So looking at the markets, for us as a niche provider to local government, there's some, as far as we can see, there's some real kind of short to medium term opportunities that will arise over the next, well, the coming months really, to 6 months to a year. So we are seeing at the moment that COVID-19 is starting to produce some gaps. Everybody, every organisation, every individual is reevaluating their work-life balance and the resource they need in their teams, the way they're operating. And we are starting to see now some gaps appearing because of that, either early retirements or resignations. So whether they will be opportunities for interims, we just don't know at this stage. But I think budgets, if budgets allow, I think that will certainly provide opportunities. On the corporate side of things, finance and HR, we're seeing a real increase in opportunities around those areas. So finance, we've talked about briefly, but there will be some really choppy waters ahead. A number of our associates have been in organisations where they have had to very seriously consider issuing a Section 114 notice. Obviously, we've not had to go to that point as yet, but that's certainly on the horizon for some organisations still. So there will be some organisations who will certainly need some strategic input over the next few months to guide them through that. And similarly with HR, we have seen a real spike in demand for HR. We've seen that across a number of organisations, the kind of change and transformation that's happening is really impacting on the workforce, and I think there's a lot of organisations really wanting to leverage what they've learned during lockdown, and there's definitely an impact on the workforce there. So we are seeing a real spike on the HR and OD side. And again, transformation, absolutely everything in the local authority is being considered, reimagined at the moment, and that's obviously producing some transformation that will certainly be opportunities for some of our interims or some of our consultants. Housing and growth, we have found that this has been uncharacteristically quiet actually. Normally it's one of our biggest areas. We found that this has been relatively quiet over the lockdown period for a number of reasons. But we are expecting that that some of the funding will start to loosen up a bit around the spending review, hopefully, and we'll start to see some of that growth kicking off again. The planning white paper, the recent white paper, we're hoping will help with that. There's some reforms have been outlined in that paper, and we're hoping that that will start to reduce some of the red tape. I know some organisations are looking at how and whether we can start to repurpose some of the buildings for other uses. So whether there's any kind of office buildings that can be repurposed for housing solutions, anything like that. So this white paper has set out some of those reforms to kind of modernise that system. And health and social care integration, again, during this last 3 to 4 months, we've really seen how health and social care can work together when needed. I know I've had a conversation with one of our chief execs over the last couple of weeks, actually, and in his authority, they have very, very close relationships with the CCG. And he feels that he really has been able to weather the storm a little bit better than some other regions because of those close relationships and the relationship across public health. So we're very much hoping that we will see that being the start of something going forward, and we'll be able to really kind of leverage on some of the progress that we've made there, and hopefully there will be some opportunities for our interims along the way in some of that. Devolution, we've not mentioned yet, is a huge debate raging in local government at the moment, and we're expecting a white paper any moment. Really, we've been told autumn, so we're expecting that to come any moment. And we're expecting that really to set out the plans for the economic recovery and renewal across the country. We are expecting more mayors, we're expecting more unitaries, so lots of organisations in lots of regions are starting those conversations now. And we often find in these situations that there are opportunities for interims or consultants amongst that, because there's usually a real pause in the recruitment market while all of the dust settles around the new structures, and we do find that there's usually a delay on any permanent recruitment, which obviously will provide those opportunities for interims to plug those gaps until all of that's solidified. And quite aside from devolution, local government reorganisation is on the cards anyway in a number of regions. That debate's already raging on in Surrey, Hertfordshire, Essex, to name a few. And we are already starting to see those opportunities coming through for our interims. So we think that will continue over the next year, 2 years at least. And just worth a quick mention of the spending review. Is due in autumn. Whether that goes ahead or not, we're not 100% sure at this stage. If it doesn't, then the current budget is likely to roll over. So what impact that will have, we'll have to wait and see. But I think it's one to keep an eye on, certainly. Mark, do you want to?
Yeah, I've less slides, but I've got information to share. So
I'll just stop sharing. There you go.
Okay, let me just share my screen. There we go. So what I want to do is just talk through market trends as I perceive it and what we're seeing in the NHS market lately. So I want to go back to 12 months. 12 months ago from now, before COVID hit and before anything came on the market, we were really, really busy. We had lots of work coming through. There was uncertainty in the market, but we were busy. We then went into Brexit and the election, which compounded the market and stalled it. Back end of November, moving into December, very, very quiet. But you'd expect that with Brexit and the election taking place and everything else going on. We then had, from the NHS perspective, the annual plans, which NHS England tend to send out early in December, didn't come out until January. So again, there was a stalling over Christmas. People took a deep sigh of relief, took some time out. And then going into January, as the annual plans came out, we started getting really, really busy. End of January into February into March, lots of work on, lots of program transformation, lots of forward thinking, lots of development of new ICSs and integrated care models and acute trusts working closer together. At that point, second week of March, everything stalled. We saw a big drop in the market as we went into the COVID-19 situation. Everybody locked down, as you'd expect. and things went very, very quiet. And we think, as Jess said, we had 3 months where the market was stalled. It was quiet. People were focused on the NHS delivering COVID and getting things done to protect people's health. That meant, because the NHS pulled together and did cope very well, pulled in lots of extra staff and made it through that period, that the demand for interims wasn't there. So we saw a quiet period in the market, which I think everybody saw, where people were locking down, looking after their local challenges and local situation. As we've come out of the sort of June, July time, the market has picked up. We're getting busier. People are starting to look forwards to what they need to do to get back to normal. We are seeing an increase in the amount of demand for transformation in the acute sector. We're seeing a lot less in the commissioning sector, and I think that's a lot to do with what happened last year, with lots of integrated care systems being developed. There's a surplus of senior people within the commissioners as it stands at the moment, and with COVID, those people are still in post, ticking things along, keeping things moving forwards. So the focus for us has primarily been the central NHS England type goals and transformations, but also the acutes pulling on the needs for supporting their operations, so senior operational leaders delivering transformation, but also now we're starting to see an increase in demand for transformation of getting back to normal. The elective services, the cancer services, the trend is very much around senior transformation program project managers and operational managers. In NHS terms, majority of the work I'm seeing is 8C and above, some more 8B, 8A type work, but majority of it's 8C, 8D, band 9. Very few very senior management posts, but that senior management is where we're seeing it. And it's people who can deliver transformation, people who can add value under very flexible markets, with the view that we may have a second or a third phase of COVID. There's still no vaccine out there at the moment, and they need to protect their patients and protect their services whilst trying to get back to normal. At this time of year, we would normally expect to see a round of commissioning around contracts, and also a real drive for QIP SIP goals, because we're halfway through the year. The focus would normally be on where are we, what's our spend, what's our budget, where can we make economies, where can we deliver efficiencies. We're not seeing that SIP QIP transformation turnaround workload coming in at all at the moment. The focus is all about patient care, patient services, and improving services to get them back on track. What we are seeing over certainly the last 6 to 12 months is an increase in what I call bureaucracy within the NHS. It's the procurement teams, it's the bank partners getting involved in the process, which from an interim perspective, from your perspective out there, it delays the process because you've got an extra line or two of process to jump through. We're seeing bank partners and various portals in place in organisations. Now, we all work on the CCS framework primarily to place in the NHS, so rates and challenges around rates have pretty much gone away because it's a set charge pay and dependent on band, dependent on location. But with the increase of bank, it has led to some confusion and some delays, which isn't great for anyone. We've also seen, as a result of that, some candidates have seen their CV going in multiple times to individual jobs, whether that's clarity from the client or clarity from the agency. It's caused confusion. So what I would always say to any interim is be very clear where your CV is, where it's being represented to, and try to avoid your CV going into the same client 2 or 3 times. It doesn't do you any good, it doesn't help us, and it certainly confuses the client. In terms of the buyers out there, the clients where we're seeing most work is coming from the providers at the moment, and quite a lot is coming from the NHS England agenda, where they are still trying to support organisations with the COVID response and post-COVID planning. And current areas of need within the market, it's reinstating elective, it's driving efficiencies through the use of technology. I think everybody out there has probably lived on Zoom and MS Teams meetings. Prior to this, I cover the East of England and North East. Getting somebody to do a telephone interview with somebody was absolute nightmare. Nowadays, it's automatic. Yeah, MS Teams interview, make a decision straight away. No need for a face-to-face. A lot of roles which historically they would have insisted you on site 5 days a week, especially if it's transformation, it's flexible working. Go on site for a couple of days, get what you need to do, go and work remotely. Now that has a dual benefit in the market, that you as an interim, your costs are reduced, your flexibility can be increased, you can work in new opportunities which maybe you would have discounted in the past. But equally, from the client's perspective, they're getting a higher value from the as we're coming out of COVID, there's going to be a real drive to use technology to improve patient services. So that IT support program manager to do virtual clinics for patients, to do outpatient assessments virtually before you go actually in there to meet people. I think we're going to see an ever increasing trend towards using technology to support outcomes. And as Jess related to, the integration of services between health and social care is massive and is only going to increase. How the NHS will get some of its efficiencies and how the council will drive its efficiencies will be working closer together, building those bonds between the commissioner, the providers and the social providers. And we are seeing a future demand. I'm not seeing it right now, but we do expect a future demand for increased health and social care goals. And private health, I think everybody's seen in the news that the NHS is going to have to draw on the private health providers to support particularly the elective waiting lists and cancer services, getting them back on track. And I think what we're going to see is more partnership and working in conjunction with the private providers to help the NHS get through what is a once-in-a-lifetime situation and move the market forwards to support patients and also support the trust as we go through this period. What I want to do also is just cover off the impact of IR35 quickly. So from my perspective, if we were talking about IR35 3 years ago, it was misunderstood. The tool, quite frankly, wasn't fit for purpose because it gave you a different result every time you did it. It wasn't clearly understood, and invariably you got an undetermined output, which we were seeing a lot of clients moving. Undetermined means inside, undetermined also means we don't know, and we were getting very few outside. Over the last 12-18 months, I think the tool has been refined. Certainly the last time I looked at it and did an assessment to challenge an assessment which had come in, it was much clearer that you get an inside or an outside. The questions are much more appropriate and there's less contention. But over the last few years, what we've seen is that the clients understand it. They are understanding of what does truly represent transformation and what truly represents a day-to-day operational inside role. If you're a general manager for medicines in ED, you're invariably always going to be inside IR35, or if you're a contracts manager doing a contracts management role, it's very hard to escape the fact that is inside IR35. If you're delivering transformation, if you're delivering new agendas or achieving something which isn't part of their normal headcount, out to the private sector, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think that's my views. Do you want to hand back to you, Jess, and let's go through the top tips for interims?
Yeah.
I'm just
unshare.
okay.
Okay. So yeah, I just covered off IR35 briefly as well in terms of some of the influencing factors in the local government market. I won't repeat a lot of that. Mark's covered most of it, but yeah, we've found that about 75% of our contracts have gone in scope of IR35. Local authorities are in some cases are quite risk averse in terms of defining contracts. So we do find that there are occasions where contracts will be defined as in scope, when probably if we were to do the defining, we probably would define it as out of scope. But we found that everybody's kind of taken their part in terms of absorbing some of the pain of where we've been from and come to over the last 3 years with it. We have found that in overall the costs have gone up for the end client, sometimes by as much as £100–200 a day, which is obviously substantial. But we have found that our interim managers have taken some of the brunt of that. We as the intermediary have taken some of it, and the end client has taken some of it. So we've muddled through with it. And as Mark said, if you were talking to us 3 years ago, you probably would have it probably would have been a bit of a more heated conversation, should we say. Just a couple of other factors that are influencing the local government market or the recruitment market in general. So obviously we're awaiting a budget. I have read in a number of articles that there may be some tax changes that would affect limited company contractors. So that may well affect the talent pool that we have available to us. Similarly, the 95k cap in local government. So this has been on the table for a good long while now, and it's been talked about and kicked around for quite a while. It does look like that will actually come into play now, possibly as early as Christmas this year. And that will certainly affect the pool of interims that we have available. Diversity, this is something that has come to the fore again, and thank goodness it's absolutely needed across the local government and across the recruitment industry in general. We are aware at Solace that we don't have all the answers on this at the moment, and we certainly want to make sure that we get better. Initially we've committed to reviewing all of our business areas by Christmas in relation to diversity and inclusion, with a view to hopefully coming up with some answers that will make a real difference across our sector. And a lot of our clients are doing the same. I've read this week, Birmingham Council, for example, are bringing in the Rooney's rule, which means that they will have to have certain representation on every shortlist of their top team in recruitment exercises. So there will be a lot happening within the recruitment industry itself, and there'll be a lot happening within local government. So we're really hopeful that will move that agenda forward. And obviously recession, we can't really ignore that. It will have an impact on the interim market. It will have an impact on local government. It will impact everybody, obviously. So there's a few kind of top tips that we've pulled together between us, Mark and I, with that in mind, really looking forward to try and see how we can make sure that that you've got some information that you can move forward with, to make sure that going into a bumpy period like we may well be about to, you can kind of make the most of what you've got available to you, and try and make sure that you are able to keep in work and wherever possible. So it's not moving. This is the bit where you wish you had technical support working from home. There we go. So just a couple of things to keep in mind, really. Keeping in touch with your network. Mark and I discussed this yesterday, actually, and we both came up with the same point. It's really critical that you've got a small group of recruiters who you know how they work, you know them, you trust them. And I would put all your energies into working with and getting to know those organisations. In addition to that, your wider network. So don't forget that you can get work directly. Get to know keep in touch with your acquaintances, ex-colleagues, and lots of our associates get work in that way just as much as they do through ourselves or through other interim providers. Obviously, we've really moved things forward in terms of technology. We can do video calls now, which we would never have thought of before. So whereas we used to rely on being in a certain place at a certain time to go for a coffee or to meet up or be able to get to know our interims, get to know our clients, I think there's a real kind of removal of barriers there over the last 4 months. So we're really happy at Solace, and I'm sure Mark would agree, we're really happy to arrange video conferencing just to get to know you a little bit better and to start to build those relationships a bit better. So we'd really like to do a lot more of that going forward. Considering your social media footprint, obviously keeping your CV up to date, getting that as strong as it can be, and making sure that you're continually sending that out to your networks so that they've got the updated version. But equally, your social media footprint needs to have the same attention as well. So a lot of organisations, a lot of local authorities will now go directly to LinkedIn. So having your profile updated on LinkedIn and having it as strong and detailed as your CV is a useful thing to consider. And I think in the local government market in particular, I'm not sure whether Mark, this would be the same in the NHS, and Mark will confirm. But for us, your kind of footprint on Google is really important. So if you're moving if you're moving through top team roles and you've got coverage on Google about something that may have happened, or the way that you left your last role, or whatever it might be, we are finding now more and more that our clients, usually elected members, will do those Google checks as they appoint a new interim, and those stories will come out one way or another. So the advice really from us is to be completely aware of what your Google footprint is, and be completely honest and open and transparent. We will help you present that. It doesn't always cause a barrier to recruitment, but it does if it gets to the point where it's not being brought up and we've not been transparent about it. So just be aware of it and talk to us about it is the advice there. Keeping your CV up to date, recent and relevant, and going into this period of time where opportunities may be a little bit more scarce, there are opportunities to spend your time wisely. So I know over lockdown, a lot of our associates have considered doing broader training. So a lot of have done our level 7 coaching qualification. We've also provided some opportunities to work on a pro bono basis with our clients throughout COVID on coaching and mentoring top teams who are responding to the COVID crisis. So all the things like that give a really good opportunity to make sure that your CV is kept up to date and kept recent during the time that it might be a bit more difficult to get those paid contracts. Considering your value proposition, just making sure that you're really clear on what you can offer, where you can add value, but also being flexible in that. I think going into a recession, you do need to have a look at all opportunities that come your way, perhaps be a bit more flexible than you might be in other market conditions. I'll let Mark go into this in a bit more detail, because I know we talked about this yesterday and this was a consideration for you as well, but presenting yourself virtually, interviewing virtually, learning how to communicate effectively in a virtual world, how to lead in a virtual world. These are things that certainly in our development team at Solace, we're helping our local government clients with a lot at the moment, because it's a new skill for a lot of people. So you will be the same if you're going into a top team role in the local authority. That's probably how you're going to need to communicate and lead, certainly at this time. So really being aware of those skills and brushing up on those skills is probably wise at this point. Mark?
Okay, I'll leave your screen up because my screen literally says top tips. So I like to do things a little bit freelance. But yeah, top tips, not dissimilar to what you've covered off, Jess. But for me, it's about the basics. You've only got one opportunity to present yourself to the client, to us, to your network. So get the basics right, get your CV smart, and with the right level of detail on there. The one thing people are not good at doing on NHS placements is telling us and telling the client the value you add. So if you've delivered a big SIP program, or you delivered transformation around elective care, what impact did that have on the patient? What impact did that have in terms of financials? What impact did that have on local systems? If you've got that on there, then that makes it far easier for us to present your CV to the client to see the value of spending 50, 60 pounds an hour on an interim, as opposed to we'll just fill it with an internal person. So get that added value that you add. In terms of presenting yourself, a real example from not that many weeks ago, 2 candidates interviewing for one job, both MS Teams. One had dressed smart and professionally, one was a lot more casual. And when we took the interview feedback from the client, the person who got the job was not necessarily significantly better than the person who didn't get the job. It was just they looked more professional on the MS Teams. Just because it's video, just because it's virtual, still present yourself as if you were turning up to that office. Get there 10 minutes early. Be waiting for them to invite you into the interview. Don't get to the interview at a minute 2, because you wouldn't do that if you were on site at a hospital or at a CCG. You'd get there 20 minutes, half an hour early. Make sure you do the same prep before you present yourself. These are all really basic things, but what we've seen because of the virtual world is people are missing some of those steps because they assume it's more relaxed, it's more casual, because they're not actually meeting the person. Video interviews, that's pretty much all that we've done. We'll see more of the use of technology, and let's keep doing that. Let's keep pushing forwards. Using your network at this time is critical. If you worked with somebody before and you don't feel comfortable approaching them, I will happily make a call for you and approach them and say that you're available and tell them what you've been doing over the last couple of years. I'm sure Jess would do the same for her network, but give us that opportunity to help you and network with your peers to see where there may be gaps and may be requirements. If you're in an assignment, the easiest job to get is an extension. So if you're in an assignment and you can see there's gaps elsewhere, your current role's coming to an end, talk to me about where there may be other opportunities, other people within that organization I can talk to on your behalf and hopefully transition you to a new role, albeit in the same organization, but they know you, you're a trusted member of the team. Get an extension rather than have to look for a new job. Working in partnership with us, I have a established network of interims. Some of them have worked for me a dozen or more times over the years. Some of them are now clients, and those clients come to me for jobs. I'm sure Jess has the same relationships out there, but work closely with us, build a relationship with us. Let's have a coffee virtually. Let's see who you are, let you see who I am, and what's important to you, what's important to the client, and then we can match that, and you'll be happier in the job and you'll be longer in placement. In terms of your reputation, we don't see as much as I think Jess's team see about your Google, footprint and your social delivery on a high point. Make sure that you know what value you did. Make sure you represent yourself in the best possible light. And sometimes things don't work out. Well, that's fine. But let's be honest and open about it so we can take things forward. Where you've done a fantastic delivery or where things have gone really well, let's capture that. Let's represent that. And let us help you by using your reputation to enhance your ability to get your next role. Your communication obviously is clear. We will always try and call you back. Sometimes working remotely, messages don't get passed on as quickly as they should, but my mobile phone's there, always ring me, I will always call you back, and the whole team is here to support you guys. So you support us, we work with you, we're one big team. So if you need me, you call me. My mobile's on my my social media and also on my LinkedIn and everything else, so just give me a shout. Let's talk things through. Let's see what I can do to help you, and have empathy for clients and the market at the moment. We've been through an incredibly challenging 12 months, what with Brexit and the election and now COVID. So have empathy with clients. Things are slower than they used to be. Rates are lower than they were a few years ago. Jobs are different, but if we all work together, we can still be strong. And you guys, we can only do this with you guys out there. So call on us if you need help, if you want advice, if you just want to run stuff past us. We will try and help wherever we can. That's me done. So thank you very much. I will pass back and any questions, I guess. Have we got the moderator here? There we go.
Am I live?
You're there.
Great. Thank you very much, Jessica and Mark, for a very, very comprehensive presentation. There are a number of questions that people have asked, and they tend to come in during the Q&A session rather than the front. But I've got one from Mark Walsh, who said the public interim market looks very busy. Given this, is it possible that this may weaken the strict border between public and private backgrounds? You did touch on this somewhat in the presentation, but if you'd like to elaborate.
Okay, from the NHS perspective, we do tend to find that if you've got private health experience, that transition into NHS and was purchasing gamekeeper does work very well. Equally, private health quite often want NHS people because that gives them a different perspective and a commercial perspective. If you're talking outside of the NHS, you know, financing, banking, moving into the NHS, I've always found that transition much harder because the NHS have certain systems and certain ways of working, and therefore I've always found that transition harder. And we do have the opportunity, because we work with the exec teams, to be able to say, this is your problem, you should look at this guy, he hasn't NHS, but look what he's done, and we can cross-sell that skill set. But generally people want some sort of NHS experience to move into the NHS, in my experience. I don't know what your experience is, Jess.
Yeah, usually in kind of the senior leadership roles, certainly most job descriptions will say that they want some experience of operating in a political environment. That's how it would be worded. So some experience of leading a team of officers and liaising with a team of elected members as well. So that does cut out some private sector people. That does tend to be the more senior leadership roles, though. So I have seen recently HR roles, perhaps lower level HR roles, lower level finance roles, project management, sometimes specifically will ask for a broader background than just purely local government. So there are opportunities, but certainly I would say those kind of the head of service, director, chief exec level positions within local authorities do generally usually ask for experience of operating in that political context.
It does also depend on whether we're talking commercial. If they're looking to bring in some commercial skill sets, some business development skill sets, some supply chain logistics type skill set, now there is a lot of transferable skills, and that's where we do see the ability to get people opportunities. IT as well, there's a lot of transferable skills around, you know, rolling out new systems which the other sectors have been using for a while. If you're talking pure operational or specific acute hospital commissioning roles, then it's much harder. Hopefully that answers the question.
Is there a cultural difference there as well? You mentioned the political difference. Is there a cultural difference that for some is too hard to get over or too different?
There definitely is a cultural difference in terms of how people are perceived, but I think it's more the skill set. They're worried that they won't understand the priorities in the NHS, and I guess local government's the same, because it's totally different to finance or manufacturing. That would be my view.
I think the political context drives a different culture as well. Because it is a different way of operating, it drives different ways of working. So I would say there probably is a bit of a cultural barrier as well, but it's probably driven by the political side of things.
Okay. Another question from Mark. Are the barriers any higher for new entrants to interim market, even if they focus on change and bring lots of digital experience and long-term experience from service providers? Are the more senior experience roles scarcer or digital-led change?
I think certainly digital-led change is one of the areas where we would be more open to a different background, because as Mark said, there are advances in other sectors that certainly that local governments would be able to take advantage of. So I think that side of it probably would be one of the areas where they would be more likely to consider.
Okay. Mark's got an addendum to this. He says, I mean, coming from private sector service providers for public sector clients and making a change to interim directly for digital change to clients.
So I think the use of technology has been not at the level it could have been over the last few years. And I think we will see an increased demand for that sort of skill set. You know, if we're talking about somebody who can bring unique knowledge and skill sets and quickly get the NHS to deliver some technology, we've seen lots of this going on over in the Essex region with one of their chief technology officers has rolled out virtually everything. He's done an amazing job over there. And I think people who've got that ability to transfer technology into from a private to a public sector will be in demand. And I think if of any of the areas, that is one of the ones where the transfer of skills is most suitable, because the systems are inherently the same, albeit you're adopting and using them slightly differently. So I think there is that opportunity. I think right now they're still a bit too head down on getting their services back, but as we come out of COVID and we look to the future, then there is going to be this massive change in technology, the use of technology, and then there will be some opportunities. And it is an easier push to get somebody with a technology IT background than, you know, moving into a general manager for medicines, because you need specialist knowledge to do that role.
A little bit more crystal ball gazing with COVID you just touched on, but what do you see the forecast, or what do you forecast the impacts of a deep recession in 2021? What areas will be least affected? It's a crystal ball stuff. So,
sorry, I didn't hear that.
What do you forecast the impacts of a deep recession in 2021? What areas will be least affected?
Well, I guess there's two elements to that in the NHS. There is the element that services still need to continue, and they will be playing a lot of catch up, and they will be funded to be able to do that. You know, you cannot just go, we haven't got any money, we're not going to do any cancer treatments. So there will be elements within the NHS market where money will be made available because they've got to catch up. You've then got the other side of the coin that at some point, Boris and the government is going to want their money back through us paying more taxes probably, but equally by efficiencies being driven out of the NHS and the public sector. Now, that will be going back to the SIP-QUIP agendas, the quality improvement and the efficiency work, the cost improvement work, and streamlining services. Now, some of that is going to require interims to build relationships between social and healthcare, build relationships with private providers who can deliver the same service cheaper, for example, or combine health organisations to get greater economies of scale and more patients seen with the same budget. All of those things will require interims. So I think almost in the public sector, it's protected from the recession slightly more than the private sector, where you are driven by market forces and, you know, manufacturing and purchasing and the high street. So that would be my view. I think we will see an impact, but it will be different roles rather than less roles.
Yeah, I think same on the local government side, really slightly protected because the services will still need delivering come what may. What we found in the last recession, which is quite sad to say that we can remember the last recession that we've literally only just recovered from, but I think for us, we saw that some of the corporate areas were the worst hit. So the finance, HR, those kind of areas, we found a lot of internal acting up, sharing arrangements. The areas that remained a little bit more buoyant were either kind of customer facing service delivery, or anything to do with growth or income generation, stayed a bit more buoyant for obvious reasons, really.
We've got a comment which I guess could be answered in some ways from John. The government focus on economic stimulus bodes well for PACE-based initiatives, economic development, town centre enhancement, business parks, highways, transportation. It kind of follows on from your previous comments.
Yeah, and we are very much hoping that will be the case. You know, we're kind of on a bit of a pause with all of that at the moment, hoping that the spending review will start to ease some of that. But we are very much expecting to see that there will be a return to growth over the coming weeks.
Okay. We have one more question, which for me, but I think you've answered that about relationships in the public sector. You've answered that very comprehensively. No other questions for the time being. Is there any other comments or thoughts that come to mind that you'd like to bring to the attendees?
I mean, all I would say is, if you want to call us, get in touch.
Yeah.
I'm keen to build relationships with as many people out there as we can. You know, we're here to try and help you, and ultimately working with the best people in the market allows us to be the best in the market. And you know, if you want to have a chat about what's going on and how we can help you, give us a shout, drop us a line. There's not just me, there's 6 or 7 of us on the NHS team. We're all here to support you. And you know, give us a shout, tell us what you'd like us to do to try and help you. We're not perfect, the market is still very challenging, but we're here to support you through difficult times and the good times.
Well, thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Mark. It's been a great presentation.
Thank you.
I just want to introduce the 5th session in this series, which is actually this Thursday. It's about the focus on fast rising providers. We're talking about focus on what they do differently, that they're fast rising. What do they attribute to the fast rise to? And we'll be hearing from David Weir from Tile Hill and Tracy Rawson from Rawson Downey. And that's on Thursday at noon, can be booked on the website. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Been a pleasure. Cheerio.
Bye.
Bye.